Welcome to SuperTalk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride. Professor, you ready?
I'm ready.
And 3.
Welcome to Super Talk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode 103. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, my illustrious co-host, Titanium, Tony Estrella, Titanium. Finally.
Yeah. Jeez.
You know, look, first off, I want to apologize to our listeners, I want to apologize to our viewing audience on YouTube. It's been a little while since we've had an episode, and you and I were a little strategic about this. We're like, look, James Gunn's promised this massive announcement about the future of the DC universe, and we should just wait. You know, we've got a few things to talk about. We should just wait to talk about it until the announcement comes out. We're like, yeah, he said sometime in January, so yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, he
and he's
promised
a little
us in
bitch and comes out on the last day of the month.
Somebody's a little angry.
Well, you know,
I get it. It was absolutely showboating. He absolutely waited till the last day of the month to relieve chapter 1 of his 8 to 10 year slate. We've been talking about it for several weeks now. I thought it was a little frustrating, a little pissed off, and I actually thought it was a little...
Look, we had to have a Congress member threaten him with congressional action for this announcement to come out on time. Funny. You know, yeah. So, and again, apologize to those of you out there listening, those of you watching. We would have done this Friday. We would have done this Saturday.
Yeah.
We would have done this Sunday. We would have done this yesterday. We're like, well, let's just wait for the announcement. There's no way it's going to be the last day of the month. It was the last day of the month. It's the last day of the month.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You know, I promised I would do it in January. What time is it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, come on.
The last day of January at noon.
It's like college students, you know. Why do something now when it's not due till 11:59 and 99.
You know, it's actually our fault because I think we were invited to the media only presentation before the announcement.
Yesterday. Yeah. We were invited to that. Oh. We weren't invited to that.
I don't think we were.
No. And you mentioned that you were kind of pissed off because they had this media only event yesterday where they announced the slate before they made the main announcement today, and you were angry because all these media, quote-unquote, media members started leaking shit online and, you know, basically kind of blowing the surprise for the rest of us.
Yeah, some of them were...
Which we know it happens.
Out. It happens, yeah.
Because people are more important... It's more important to be first than it is to be right.
Oh, some of those toxic reporters out there that just are so...
Two nice guys, neighborhood dads who love comic books, can't get invited to...
Crazy.
Bupkis.
I don't get it. Crazy. But whatever. We'll move on.
All right.
We're not bitter.
And we're going to give you the complete Super Talk breakdown today on what we heard and our opinions and where we think things are going. We'll do that. We got a lot to get into.
Let's jump in.
So we want to get started by thanking, of course, the listeners that bring the show to you, our patrons. Patreon.com/SuperTalk is how you become a member. If you'd like to join the patronship, Patreon.com/SuperTalk. And thank you for our patrons out there. Let's get into the review section. We got a couple things to talk about since our last episode. We had two things. One, we got a new trailer for Shazam, Fear of the Gods, and we'll talk a little bit more about Shazam and how it fits into the bigger picture of DC in our topic of the week. But the new trailer did come out.
Yep.
Extended, so it was a good 60-second trailer. It was a full minute.
Yep.
Lots of scenes with him fighting a dragon. Lots of scenes with him having... obviously inner turmoil with, does he deserve the powers? Should he have the power? Should he give it back to the wizard?
Definitely a darker tone to this trailer. It was a darker tone from the first trailer, which was a little bit more lighter, a little bit funnier, a lot more of the dragon and the creatures that are going to be in this.
And we saw that there was a way for each of the Shazam family had their powers taken from them.
From the staff.
The staff was able to suck the powers away from them. And
the staff of
I think the plot
Atlas.
of the movie is obviously the daughters of Atlas going after each of the Shazam family and taking the powers back, and then Shazam's kind of left on his own. Like, I could do this by myself.
Yeah, we got to see all three daughters of Atlas.
Yeah.
And what their kind of main objective is to take back that power.
Helen Mirren, smoke show.
Helen, what? Wow. Hey, you know what?
To each his own.
Professor's into old cougars, and God bless them.
Nah, it's and for those of you who've been watching 1923, she's awesome on that show as well.
Yep.
Look, I think the biggest question, you and I have talked about this. I'm looking forward to this movie because of how much I like the character Shazam. Zachary Levi's portrayal of the character has been all right.
Yeah.
Not great. All right.
Big Peter Saffron buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we obviously don't know how this fits in the big picture. Again, we'll talk about that later. But you and I are going to see this regardless, of course.
Yeah,
We're going to go see the movie. I hope it's entertaining. I hope it's done well. And I don't expect much more than just to be entertained. Really, my expectations of this movie are pretty low.
It absolutely looks entertaining, and again, a little bit darker of a trailer, which is great. We get a little bit more of the plot. We do know that the wizard is involved pretty heavily in this. We do know the three sisters of Atlas are coming back to take the power that was ripped, as she said, from her father. So it'll be interesting. The golden apple, the mythology behind it, all of that is in play big time here. I think that at one point you see a scene of a minotaur, ravaging through the streets. I liked the first movie. It was good, and I enjoyed it. It was very entertaining. I hope this doesn't fall by the wayside of the dreaded sequel curse. But yeah, again, we'll get into it in our topic of the week, but a little bit of luster has lost now since we know or don't know if Shazam will be going forward, right?
Yeah, let's save that conversation because I've got some thoughts there. But anyway, new trailer, movie comes out in March. We'll obviously be going out and seeing it and doing a review of it, and so we'll see how that happens.
Yep.
I did want to mention one thing. We're a bit in the doldrums of new content.
Wait, you're excited for the movie or you're not excited for Shazam? Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm going to go see it.
Of course we are.
And I hope I'm entertained by it, but I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait till Shazam Fear of the Gods comes out. No, I'm not excited.
Okay.
By any means.
Not like some other movies that are coming out this year.
Yeah. No, I'm not excited.
Okay.
Will I be excited for like Blue Beetle?
Yes.
Oh.
God damn, you read my mind.
I know, I'll be excited.
Swear to God, I was just about to say like Blue Beetle.
Right, I'll be excited
because we're both hyped for that.
Oh,
hyped as shit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But I want to jump into another review. Again, we're kind of a little starved for new content right now. Again, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania comes out in a couple weeks. Not really anything new hitting the wires. We did get some updates on some other stuff, which we'll talk about. But I did see, if you guys hadn't seen, one of the movies that DC had come out with at the end of last year made its way to HBO Max. It's called Batman Superman Battle of the Super Sons. And I saw it was on HBO Max. I'm like, oh, this is a new one. Let me check it out. I've seen it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And so it follows Jonathan Kent, the son of Lois and Clark, right? Uh-huh. It's their son, their biological son of Superman. He's a teenager. His dad's never around as much as he wants him to be, and
Obviously.
he gets pissed off about it. And
Obviously.
he ends up, developing powers, shockingly, and finds out his dad's Superman, and it's a really kind of big revelation. But it goes through the whole kind of like Connor Kent coming into his own powers, and then we see him get introduced to Damian Wayne. He gets introduced to Batman and Damian Wayne, and Damian Wayne, of course, the big prick that he is, is
right.
oh, his powers are manifesting themselves in moments of stress. Let's like throw him off the side of a cliff and see what happens. It's awesome. But again, I won't spoil the whole thing. The plot of the movie is Starro ends up coming to Earth and takes over that we saw in the Suicide Squad. But takes over everybody, including the Justice League. And the only two people who are left are Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne. And it's up to them to save the world, right, from Starro. great movie. I was so entertained. I was surprised at how good it was. And again, I think DC Animation has had some swings and misses, but this was a really good one. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's worth a watch. Excellent. That's what I'll say.
Nice.
And we'll hear a little bit more about Damian Wayne and some of the future plans for DC as well.
Yep.
All right, let's get in the news section.
News.
And yeah, so this is news that we haven't talked about since our last episode, and this is not, even talking about the big news of the day. But one of the things I want to make sure we mention before we have a chance to move on to some of the other news, Invincible came out with a teaser trailer that we didn't get to cover yet. Amazon Prime dropped a teaser for the Invincible show on Amazon Prime. One of our favorites.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I went back this weekend and watched the last 2 episodes of the season because I want to remember what ended up happening. This is such a great show. Look, if you haven't watched this, we've talked about how much we love The Boys. We've talked about how much we love some of the other series that are on Disney Plus and HBO Max. Invincible on Amazon Prime, based on a comic book storyline and a comic book character. It is so good and incredibly bloody and incredibly violent.
Gory.
It's
an adult
animated feature.
It definitely rushes the boundary.
But this
and
hit us hard last year.
Yeah, it did.
Or actually a year and a half ago almost now.
Great show.
And we were just like, what the hell's going on? We know another season. It was greenlit for another season. Well, they came out with a teaser trailer, and it's going to be coming out late 2023. So it will be coming out this year, but probably not till October, November, December of this year. It'll be later this year. But we got a little teaser. They really didn't give us much, just a little bit of a teaser. But I look, this show was awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where
great characters, great story. And at the end of the first season, his father, Omni-Man, flies off in a fit of rage because his son made him care about him after he beat the crap out of him. Oh my God!
Almost killed him.
Yeah, basically, effectively. Yeah. He said, "What would you have after 500 years?" He's like, "I'd have you, Dad." Oh,
yeah, he flies off.
Yeah.
What's that actor's name? He plays Negan. And Morgan Dean.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. You nailed it the first time.
Yeah, I'm so close.
Yeah.
He tweeted a picture of him with Invincible 2 book in front of him.
So you think he's going to be in the second season as a character?
I think he's going to be voiced in the second season. Or are they talking about a live action Invincible? No?
No live action. No. But if you remember,
he's going to be part of
the first season, the voice actors they had in
off the charts
show were incredible. We had Lucy Liu, we had Walter Goggins. It was like so many good voice actors that were in this show.
Off the charts.
Yeah, so good. So I think he might be playing a character in this new season.
Awesome.
So anyway,
great actor.
I wanted to mention that because it wasn't in our notes, but I forgot about it. But we'll get that. We'll get to that later this year. Hopefully, it's the time of the year where we're really looking forward to it. So that'll be great. You wanted to talk about this alternate version of Flash. So we know we've seen the Flash trailers multiple times now. From what we've seen in the trailers, there's our version of Flash. We see another version of Flash who's wearing a costume that was based on Batman's costume because it has a Batman logo that's overpainted with a Flash logo. And then we see Supergirl in the trailers as well. So we knew there was like another version of Barry Allen, at least another version of Ezra Miller in this movie. But now there's kind of this loose confirmation that this is going to be the Dark Flash. So instead of going with the Reverse Flash, which was the original Flashpoint storyline, was based on Barry going back in time to save his mom from being killed by the Reverse Flash. This storyline is going to have the Dark Flash in it. So we're not... Look, I don't want to read too much into it. I'm kind of let the story speak for itself. But there is going to be a less than good version of the Flash in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which is great. I think I kept texting you the Dark Flash and Black Flash. I kept thinking that they were the same, but completely different.
Yeah, I think the Dark Flash is kind of an amalgam or whatever of multiple different kind of evil versions of Flash. I think
the rumor is that his suit is made of Kryptonian material, and what brings him on and powers him is the fact that Barry goes back in time and he's using the Speed Force, and I guess very similar to other Flashes that hunt him because of that.
Hey, rumor is we're going to get a trailer for this movie, a real trailer for this movie during the Super Bowl, yes. Which would not surprise me. This is one of the ones that they're saying will be a Super Bowl trailer. Look, we got some sneak peeks of this very early on last year. I think we are due a proper trailer for this movie. We kind of need to know what's going on. Even considering now how important this is and kind of the future of what DC's doing, and we'll get to that in our topic of the week. I don't want to read too much into this. There's going to be a bad version of Flash. I mean, how do you have Flashpoint without a bad version of Flash? Right. You kind of have to, right? Right? So we'll figure that out. I wanted to mention that Avatar Way of Water, which we've discussed on the show before, had a bit of a run here recently. It's been doing very well in the box office worldwide, as you can imagine.
As predicted.
By the way, in the last 2 weeks, it's passed Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yep.
Avengers Infinity War, and just recently passed Star Wars The Force Awakens to become the 4th highest grossing movie of all time. Past a couple of our favorite, superhero comic book movies of all time. Is now number 4. I believe it only has to pass Titanic, Avengers Endgame, and the original Avatar movie, right. Yeah. To be the highest grossing. I don't think it. I doubt it will. Maybe it will. I mean, I guess based on a bunch of different factors like current prices and things like that, it might. But look, James Cameron is,
on fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like kind of a mint. You just kind of print money, I guess. But hey,
I think Ant-Man will slow it down a little bit once that.
I think so
out,
too. Yeah. I think that's part of the reason for its success when it came, because
nothing else is out.
Every other movie abandoned the box office when they knew Avatar was coming out over Christmas. Nobody wanted to release a movie,
no.
And we're not competing with that juggernaut.
Yeah.
We saw Shazam get delayed. We saw Aquaman get moved out of the holiday season. They were all leaving. But, that being said, hey, he's taking advantage of that. But I agree. I think in 2 weeks when Ant-Man comes out, it'll kind of slow things down a little bit. And I think you mentioned to me another side note that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will be one of 2 movies, including Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, that have been released in China.
Yes.
By Marvel.
Yeah, they
so got Thor Ragnarok, Thor Love and Thunder did not get released in China.
Nope.
And Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness.
Definitely Eternals did not get released in China. Definitely. So, no, none of those movies were released in China based on some issues that they were having. The coronavirus, this, that. But apparently, they've worked out a deal. And will it help propel them to astronomical numbers?
Astronomical, I doubt it.
I doubt it, but it definitely will add to the gross of the film and make it look a lot better.
Well, worldwide gross for sure.
Absolutely. I think China, their deal is a little different than the rest of the world.
Well, and Kevin Feige has come out and said, look, this movie is incredibly important. It's the kickoff movie for Phase 5 of the MCU. This kicks off Phase 5. So this is an important movie for us. So I think for him to have this movie in as many markets as possible is important. And it sets up a lot of other things that we got going down the road. So we'll see what's going on with that. By the way, speaking of that movie, they did an interview with Fandango, and I'm going to give the individual who is doing the interview all the credit in the world, because he asked the hard question in a very creative way that made it so the actors of the movie weren't directly giving anything away, but at least gave us, the fans, something. And he asked the question of okay, so you know how Marvel does things. There's always these cameos and people that end up showing them the secrets that we don't know about, right? He said, so I know you can't talk about that. Obviously, you're under you can't speak about these things. But he said,
exactly,
on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate the cameos and the surprise factor of those cameos in your movie? Go.
Yeah.
And it was you watched them all look at each other that seems pretty harmless. I think we can answer that question, right? And they basically said, Paul Rudd said, I can't speak for everybody, but I think if people kind of knew what we know, they would think it's a 10.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. And so it's like, the rumors are that there's going to be some big time cameos and hidden characters and things that we don't know about. I bet you there are in this movie. I think we're going to be... Now, I'm not talking about post-credit scenes. I'm talking about in the movie. There's going to be some things we're surprised by.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. If that's the truth, that would be absolutely fantastic. I think the post-credit scenes are going to set up Loki 2. I think we're going to get a variant of Kang in a post-credit scene for Loki 2. I'd love to get some kind of Doom credit scene, but I don't think that's going to happen. But that's my dream. That's my wish, is to give me something more. I don't know.
I don't want to dig too much into it. I think you and I are going to do. I believe we'll do an Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania preview right before we go see the movie, and we'll kind of talk about what we're expecting to see in the movie, what the outcomes are going to be, what the impacts on the MCU. I don't want to get too much into
who
it.
I think's going to die
if somebody dies. Right. Those types of things. So we'll talk through that. We had talked about this kind of offline. Lots of rumors out there that the Sentry, a Marvel character, is going to be the main antagonist for the Thunderbolts movie. And I think that makes a lot of sense, knowing the Sentry is kind of like a superhero kind of on the power level of Superman, kind of from the Marvel Universe type of thing, has the power of a thousand exploding suns inside of him. So he's a very powerful character, but he also deals with some massive mental issues.
Yeah.
And so the talk now is that Thunderbolt Ross will be revamping or starting up the Super Soldier program again, and Sentry is something that came out of the Super Soldier program, and that Val kind of created this character many years ago and was keeping it hidden, and all of a sudden it has to be released, and he's crazy and we're gonna have to go stop him.
So Homelander crazy?
Oh, well, that's a different kind of crazy. Homelander's got personal, just issues. Emotional issues.
Yeah.
No, Sentry's like nuts.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. So, but anyway,
I'm excited about
lots of rumors around who might be playing Sentry and all this, but I think that leads up, and it would make a lot of sense in that a whole team of kind of superheroes needs to be brought together to stop somebody like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we screwed up. We let something out of the cage we were supposed to let out. Can you guys go take care of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that makes a lot of sense. So we'll see.
That storyline makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Is Ghost in it? Is Ghost not in it?
Well, she was in the screenshot.
She's in the screenshot, and then rumors had it that she wasn't in it, and the actress came out and said that, no, I'm not in it, and then the actress came out and said, well, wait a minute, I didn't know what you were talking about. Maybe I am in it. So who knows? It'll be interesting, though.
Yeah, why would they have done the
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
I just hope it's not a Black Widow 2, and I feel like that's what it's being marketed as.
Let's hope not. Lots of new casting rumors around the MCU. And again, Kevin Feige, I know you're listening. You listen to us each week.
Avid fan.
Number one on our likes and subscribes every week.
Always blowing up my DMs.
Really. I mean, Kevin, slow down. I can
Chill,
only
brother.
get to one question a day.
All right?
But anyway, Kevin, if you're listening, lots of casting rumors, and as we've said on the show many, many times, the more longer you go without giving us casting announcements, the more rumors will become more prevalent, and
the more fans will speculate.
Speculation will run rampant. Yeah. New anonymous Reddit posts from people, industry insiders and casting directors inside of Marvel and all this other stuff, who you can't trust anything from any of these people, but I'll say, 10 to 15 to 20% of these things end up becoming true after the fact, so you kind of got to pay attention to them a little bit.
Sure.
Here's the latest, so we'll kind of get through them. We heard casting rumors about Ryan Gosling. He was in conversations with Kevin Feige about a role inside of Marvel. Newest rumor is he will be playing the Silver Surfer, and we will first see him in a special presentation on Disney+. Now, we knew highly likely Silver Surfer will be coming to the MCU within a special presentation with Disney+. That's not a big surprise. Ryan Gosling playing Silver Surfer? Surprise, but...
Yeah, how do you hide that face behind? How do you hide that gorgeous face behind.
But he plays Norrin
CGI.
Rad in the special presentation where you don't have to CGI him. So, like when he's Norrin Rad, before he becomes a Silver Surfer, you don't have to hide the face.
Boring. I want the Silver Surfer. Don't give me Ryan Gosling.
Who voiced the Silver Surfer in the Fantastic Four and the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie?
That was done cool. I thought
Who was the voice?
I don't know.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
you don't know.
No, yeah, exactly.
But if it were Ryan Gosling, you're like, oh, that's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, still.
That's what they want. They want some name recognition behind the voice, and I think that's what they're looking for. But that would not surprise me by any means. To your point, might diminish him. Now, I think that what they would do is they would do more of a makeup treatment than they would CGI to kind of accentuate his facial features because he is so gorgeous.
I see it.
Right?
Okay.
So maybe they do that.
Like an Avatar type thing, have him act and do that, but like keep his facial features.
Yeah, similar to what they did with Thanos
and Hulk.
And Hulk,
yeah.
Right. I mean, you can tell
Mark Ruffalo.
It's Mark Ruffalo,
right? It looks a little like him.
Right, exactly.
A mutated green, bulbous Mark Ruffalo.
Funny. Next rumor. So we knew, again, casting rumors around Keanu Reeves. Been going on forever, but story now is that either Keanu Reeves or Dennis Quaid will be the voice of Galactus.
Yeah.
Obviously, you and I have kind of fan casted and theory casted what Keanu Reeves is going to be doing. Again, my guess was Whistler in the Blade movie.
My guess was
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider,
been a big one that everybody's been talking about for a long time now.
Ghost Rider makes more sense.
Look,
Norman Reedus. Is that his name? Norman Reedus? Is that the guy from Walking Dead?
Reedus.
Reedus.
Norman
Reedus. Yeah, he'd be a kick-ass Ghost Rider as well, but Keanu Reeves would be kick-ass.
Yeah, and also a voice role for Keanu Reeves' voice is very iconic, distinct, and I think that if he were the voice of Galactus, we would, yo, bro, why you not letting me eat the planet? So that would be kind of cool. So again,
excellent.
Excellent. Fantastic Four casting rumors. Again, the more longer we go without a casting announcement, the more rumors are going to be. Again, the latest ones are that the entire team will be in their 30s. All the actors and actresses playing the roles will be in the 30s, with the exception of Johnny. Johnny Storm will be in his 20s. So, like a mid to young 30s kind of team with a 20s-something actor playing Johnny. And there's, again, millions of rumors out there who's playing who and who's involved. Look, just come out and announce it already. I mean, for Christ's sakes. Again, Adam Driver was somewhat linked to the role of Mr. Fantastic, potentially. The latest rumors are now that that's been debunked, and it's more likely he is playing Doctor Doom. So, again, you and I talked about that when the rumors of Mr. Fantastic. I was like, he'd be a much better Doom.
No question.
He's done the masked evil guy before, and he's really good at it.
We said that as soon as the rumor hit the wires, we were like, no, Doom.
Right.
Yeah. Does he want to continue his acting career with another mega villain? Although he did have a redemption arc in The Force Awakens, right? Or The Last Jedi, right?
Look, here's the thing. There have been iconic actors playing villains for multiple pictures and multiple times, and if you're going to be known as a bad guy, just do it really well.
Yeah.
I mean, who was the original Joker in the Batman movies? Jack Nicholson, and he killed it.
Yeah.
You ever dance with the devil in Pale Blue Night?
And he did pretty good. I think he had a couple other movies after that.
He's okay. He's won some awards.
He's not strapped for cash.
Right. So anyway, that's all kinds of casting rumors. All right, look. Without further ado, let's get into the top of the week this week because it's been on our minds all day long. James Gunn finally came out today.
Brought to you by Studio GG Studios. You forgot our brothers.
I was going to get there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to talk about this. James Gunn finally came out today and made his Chapter 1 announcement for the DC Universe. And before we get into it, we want to thank our friends over at Studio GG Studios.
Yes, sir. Corner on the Cob. Home of the Man Band.
Yeah, so thanks, Studio G. We really
guys.
appreciate it. Again, took way too long. Waited the last day of the year, all this other, last day of the month, all this other stuff. We'll kind of get into that. So he went to Twitter and had about a 5.5 minute video, kind of talked about the plans. A little bit of editing done in the video if you've watched it. It wasn't, kind of a single cut. But
No, yeah, and it was, to be honest with you, kind of sloppy. I would think that they maybe Warner Brothers doesn't have any money, but I did not think his presentation
shot on 35 millimeter camera, right?
Everything from the lighting was kind of shoddy to the editing, the cutting of the editing. I don't know. Maybe James needs to work. He's a behind the cameras guy. Maybe he just needs to work on his in front of cameras guy a little bit more charisma, a little bit more,
It's the least important part of what was said.
I get it, but still.
So what he basically said is that Chapter 1 is the first of 2 chapters that will be the next 8 to 10 years of the DC universe, right? So this is just Chapter 1.
Just some of it.
Not all of it.
There's going to be surprises.
So this is just Chapter 1. There are things in Chapter 1 that we haven't talked about yet. There are things that are coming after Chapter 1 that will be in Chapter 2 that we haven't talked about yet.
And Chapter 1 is called?
It's called Gods and Monsters. And, this really kind of talks... And I think he was very open with the fact that, number one, this is going to be driven by the creative writers. This is who is driving this vision. Who is the writers. He has a team of writers. He listed off 4 or 5 incredibly talented writers who've worked on a bunch of different projects before that are part of he called them the architects of the DC universe. And it is a very writer-driven roadmap. We are not going to directors and producers and asking them what they want to do. The writers are coming up with the stories, and it's up to the directors and producers to make the films and shows based on the story that we've given.
One of the most impactful things he said in his little video montage there, his little dialogue, was the story is so important to us.
It's the most important
thing. The most important thing is the story. And that's what they're focusing on, is a good story is everything to us.
Right.
And I thought that right there put me at ease, and I was like, great.
That was our biggest criticism of the original DCEU, was that the story felt disjointed. It was disconnected. Some of the projects were connected. Some of them weren't. And he's like, you're not going to have to worry about that with us.
Yeah.
Everything will be connected. He said the same actors will be playing the same characters in all of these movies, television shows, animated.
So any kind of animation show that they come out with, those actors will see, he said, some of them will see in live action.
Some will see in animation first and then go to live action.
Yeah.
Some maybe in live action come to animation, but it'll be the same actors. So he wanted it all connected.
That was positive. That was probably one of the biggest things.
Obviously, it's one of the things that Marvel's done very well, is that Disney Plus and the TV shows came out way after the original MCU was formed, but even those actors that have transitioned from their movie roles, and even the smaller characters like Darcy and Agent Woo and others, we saw them in the movie. Bringing them to TV shows makes a lot of sense. So that's one thing he promised us. Also, he talked about, we're getting started by kicking off a great 2023. We've got 4 movies on the slate this year, and they're not, they're going off without any changes. And here's where I want to kind of talk about how he described each of these movies.
Yeah.
So first he said, we kick off the year with Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And, Shazam's kind of always been off, kind of doing his own thing, off in his own world, and he's very connected into what's going on in the DC universe. And so
he is?
Yeah. So he basically, for all intents and purposes, left it very open as to the future of the Shazam character, the future of Zachary Levi as Shazam, the future of the other actors within the franchise, and how does it fit within the DC universe. He never said they're not part of our future, but he said they're kind of off and always been doing their own thing, and they kind of fit into what we're doing in the DC universe. It made it seem like, to me, that he wanted him to paint them as they've kind of always been off on doing their own thing, and so if we decide to pull them into what we're doing, we can.
Right.
And that's what it sounded like to me. Is that what you got out of it?
What I got out of it was he was playing it safe.
Yeah.
Like he's about to launch.
Do you think it was more of, I don't want to screw up a movie I got coming out in March?
Correct. Yes.
So he could come out in April and say, we're totally, what you just saw in Shazam! Fury of the Gods is not going to...
And the internet sleuths and all the internet detectives and all the rumor mill and all the insiders and everybody who's connected to their leak sources within DC, Warner Brothers, Marvel, they all were like, well, Zachary Levi's safe and Jason Momoa is safe. Well, what I took it as was very smart and calculated that why discuss something, why not make it believe that they are going to be in
or might
be in future movies and not really get into the details of that when these movies are already in the can and coming out this year.
You can't shoot yourself in a box office foot,
exactly.
Right? I mean, you're just not going to do it. And I don't think it's as what he said was Shazam: Fear of the Gods feeds into what's going on in Flash. So he said it's a good precursor to what's happening in the Flash movie. I think I doubt that he's already has plans for what's happening with Shazam and Zachary Levi. It may be one of these things. We'll see how they do in the box office.
Exactly.
And if things go very well, maybe we do want to fit them.
Maybe we'll continue with this crew.
Who knows there?
I thought it was calculated.
What I took it as, we don't have an immediate plans for the Shazam character
right
after this movie comes out,
right.
And therefore I have the luxury of waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But he did mention it fed into the Flash movie, and he said, Flash movie, incredibly important, yes. and it reboots the entire DC universe.
He did say that. He did say, and he also made the comment of it's one of the best superhero movies out there. He said it's one of the best superhero movies out there. He's seen it, and I got some rumors and some other theories about it. He's seen it, and he said it was one of the best superhero movies out there.
Again,
now,
future of Ezra Miller, up in the air.
But apparently...
and again, I think publicly they've come out and said, we're waiting to see how things go with his rehab.
When he's ready, we're going to discuss the future.
But I think the nail's in that coffin.
But all these internet sleuths, everybody is saying Ezra Miller is safe, Zachary Levi is safe, and Jason Momoa is safe. And I think those are the three movies that are obviously coming out this year. How can you say that? How can you axe those guys and kill those movies before?
If you came out today and said, Ezra Miller is coming out with The Flash this summer, it's going to be rebooting the entire DC universe, and we will be recasting that character as soon as that movie is over. Yeah, exactly.
It would tank.
Right.
And that's why they can't
for him to say it will be hitting the... And you have... How many times have we said this? Flashpoint is a way for them to start over. It's a way for them to hit the reset button on the DC universe.
And that's what's going to happen.
We've said that a million times.
And that's what's going to happen.
And that's exactly what they're going to do. Yeah. He's going to go back in time, screw everything up. All this stuff's going to happen. He's going to come back, and everything's going to have changed.
Yeah, and I think they're going to tie Flashpoint into Aquaman at the end of Aquaman. I think they will.
Yeah, they'll have them end at the same time.
Exactly, something like that. And Aquaman might happen before Flashpoint, and then at the end, it kind of... I think that's what's going to happen. And
here's the most exciting thing that he said today. When he talked about the next movie in the schedule, Blue Beetle. He said, Blue Beetle, completely disconnected, not connected to anything, so he fits right into the DC universe.
Right.
Most exciting thing I heard today. Because he's like... We've been doing this movie, a great character, something that we're really looking forward to, and it hasn't been connected, not part of the Snyderverse, not part of anything else, so it fits right into what we're doing.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, just take this actor and take this movie and move it right into the future of the DC universe.
Yeah.
So the luxury of that movie having not had been connected.
Correct.
Ezra Miller was in the Justice League.
Right.
Jason Momoa was in Aquaman 1 and the Justice League. You know, all these characters have been in previous projects. Blue Beetle doesn't have to worry about that.
Well, another thing is that, and people are concerned, is that it's not really a complete reboot. Like, he's keeping some of his favorites. Like, Amanda Waller, for one thing. You know?
We'll get into that.
I understand that, but this correlates...
He didn't say a complete reboot.
Well,
he said everything's going to be connected.
Understand. So that's why people are speculating that these other actors are safe and will continue their roles.
Well, you watched
in the future.
The Jason Momoa interview he had, where he was like,
"And everybody likes his Lobo."
I've talked to James and Peter, and I've got so many things I can't tell you. He said, "Look, I'm always going to be Aquaman, but there's not saying I can't play any other characters too."
Yeah.
Right? And so, I mean, we don't know what's happening. I mean, obviously, big rumors about him being Lobo.
They themselves, Peter Safran came and debunked that himself. He says, we're not going to have a character. We're not going to have an
He's not going to play two characters.
He
said that.
So I think Jason Momoa is out as Aquaman, and they have big plans for him as another character.
We'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely.
So anyway, and then we obviously have Aquaman. Aquaman. What's the name of the movie?
Lost Kingdom.
Lost Kingdom. Coming out the end of the year. He said feeds right into what we're doing. That movie's going to just launch us right into Superman. We're like, oh, Superman. What do you mean by Superman? So he goes into, yes, speaking of Superman, that is the first major project we are doing in the new DC universe, right?
Yeah. I think 2 projects come out before that. One is an animated series and one is...
He said that Superman is the first major project, but they're going to have 2 other things that are going to come out first, which we'll kind of get into what those series are. But Superman Legacy is the name of the Superman movie.
And he's the writer. He's writing it. No director yet.
He is writing that. The plans for the DC Universe, they're going to release 2 movies per year and 2 series per year during Chapter 1. So we will get 2 movies and 2 series on HBO Max each year. So that's the way they're going to do this. And he also did mention that there are Elseworld projects, like what Todd Phillips is doing with Joker, what Matt Reeves is doing with the Batman. He said, and they also mentioned like Teen Titans Go on Cartoon Network. He said those are Elseworld projects. They're part of the DC universe, but they're a different universe, and we're going to label them accordingly.
Yeah.
So when the Batman 2 comes out, it's going to be called DC Elseworlds.
Yeah.
The Batman 2.
Correct.
It's going to be Joker Folie Deux or whatever. DC Elseworlds.
Right.
It's going to be an Elseworlds project, so we know it's not connected to the main DC universe.
To the main universe, yeah.
So exactly. that's important,
and that's great news because that opens up a lot of possibilities.
They can
for
do
them
anything
to play
they
around.
want in Elseworlds, as long as they label it Elseworlds, so
right.
that we know it's not connected
and it's not confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything that Todd Phillips and Matt Reeves are doing can do whatever they want. And it doesn't impact their schedule or connections or anything like that. As a matter of fact, we got an announcement around the release date of the Batman 2 is going to be October 3rd, 2025.
Yeah, huge.
Which is huge. So we know that movie is on the slate and coming out, which is awesome. So the Chapter 1 is going to be 5 movies and 5 television series. And we'll go over each one of them. So, as I mentioned, the first major project is a motion picture called Superman Legacy. It is set for release. We got a release date today. There goes Kang. I knew he was going to leave. We got a release date today, July 11th, 2025.
Yeah, so
already on the calendar.
2 major movies in 2025 for
Right.
DC. The Elseworld Batman 2 and Superman Legacy.
Right. July 2025. And James Gunn said everything from this project moving forward is all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected. Now, that means that Aquaman Fear of the Gods does not... It comes before this project, so it could not be connected,
Correct.
right?
And we don't have a Superman for that.
We don't have a casting, but James Gunn is writing this. He said he's actively writing this, and it's we'll say influenced by the comic book run All-Star Superman. So a much younger version of Superman. They're probably going to go younger with the casting as well. But James Gunn's writing this himself. He's really excited about it. You mentioned a couple of series that are going to be coming out prior to that movie. One is The Creature Commandos, which is an animated series. So this is
7 episodes.
Yeah, and it's an animated, and again, it's going to be voiced by actors who will play these characters in live-action movies if they make their way to live-action movies.
Yeah.
The Creatures Commandos in the comics was a team that was formed during World War II, and it was like...
Fighting Nazis.
Yeah. It was like Dracula and a werewolf and Frankenstein and all the... And we kind
Eric Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein.
Well, not in the original.
Not in the original.
Not in the original.
She's
It was
definitely in this
Medusa. Yeah, no. The original was like... It was a vampire, a werewolf, Frankenstein, Medusa, and then they kept changing the team over the years. Yeah. But in this particular edition, we're going to get the Bride of Frankenstein, a couple of other characters. And again, we know Weasel from the Suicide Squad is going to be in this movie, or in this project, in the animated project. But that one's going to come out first. We know that
played the Weasel in the Suicide Squad.
It was James Gunn's brother.
Huh.
Yeah.
Odd. Isn't that odd? Huh.
Yes, no surprise there.
Big favoritism. We'll talk about that in a minute.
And the other project that is likely to come out before Superman Legacy is the Waller series. So this is featuring Amanda Waller, still going to be portrayed by
So not a complete reboot.
Right.
Bringing back.
Not a reboot. Viola Davis is still playing Amanda Waller as she has in the original Suicide Squad movie, the Suicide Squad movie, the Peacemaker series. She was Amanda Waller. She's coming back as Amanda Waller, as well as the rest of the Peacemaker team. They are going to be in this series. So John Cena is coming back as Peacemaker, and the rest of the team's coming back. And this is going to be following on to the end of Peacemaker Season 1 and kind of a lead into a future Peacemaker series as well. Yeah,
it's been confirmed. There's going to... Peter Safran said that this sits between Peacemaker 1 and Peacemaker 2.
But it is a direct sequel to the first Peacemaker season.
Yeah, but with Amanda Waller leading it. Yeah.
Right.
They got some pretty big writers doing this. They got the lady that wrote Watchmen...
Yeah,
that series on HBO Max that nobody watched.
Yeah,
and then the person that wrote Doom Patrol and did the Umbrella Academy.
Nice.
So those are pretty big writers.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's story driven content, right?
Story.
All right, so those are two series that will come out on HBO Max before
the big
Superman
movie.
Legacy.
Yeah.
After Superman Legacy, we're getting into The Authority, which is a movie based. And James Gunn calls this one of his pet projects. I will call this the Guardians of the Galaxy of the DC Universe.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to call this, is because The Authority are based on characters who came into the DC Universe through an acquisition. So Jim Lee, one of the most prolific, incredible comic book artists of all times and just creative minds in regards to comic books, helped Zack Snyder with his kind of vision around the Snyderverse. So Jim Lee is one of the best ever. I mean, just one of the best ever. He had his own comic book company called Wildstorm, which was acquired by DC, just to get Jim Lee back into DC, which was kind of awesome.
These are his characters that they're folding into,
Yep, and so they're going to be... It's a movie called The Authority, which is a group of superheroes.
Seven superheroes.
These are Jim Lee's characters that he created in Wildstorm. They create a team that basically has... we'll say they're morally gray in that they believe the world is so messed up that they have to fix it any way they can, and that includes killing people and killing presidents and overthrowing governments and doing whatever they have to make the world a better place, and they do it that way.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Sounds like Peacemaker kind of, right?
And Suicide Squad and all kinds of other stuff, right? Exactly.
Right. I'm excited for that one for some reason.
Yeah, I think James Gunn has a way of taking obscure, unknown characters and making them lovable, right? Yep. So, like he did with Guardians, right?
Exactly.
He mentioned something I read today. Was like, who would have thought two of the greatest roller coaster rides in the world would be Guardians of the Galaxy rides? Nobody even heard this team, 10 years ago,
right?
And now
they're great rides.
Great rides in theme parks.
Popularity,
right? Exactly. The first Batman project we're going to get in the DC universe is going to be called The Brave and the Bold. It will be a movie. It's adapting Grant Morrison's run in the comics, featuring, as we mentioned earlier, Damian Wayne as Bruce Wayne's biological son, who ends up becoming Batman.
Who I guess Bruce Wayne didn't know he had a son, and he was raised to about 8 or 10 or something
by
like
Ra's
that.
al Ghul, the freaking
ends up raising him as an assassin, and then Bruce Wayne comes into his life again. I'm a little weary of this, to be honest with you.
Oh no. Damian Wayne is one of my favorite characters in the comics.
I agree.
My favorite
Absolutely.
characters. And this is the version of Robin you go with.
Whoops.
Sorry, just playing the theme song, Titanium.
Sorry about
What's going on? But he's an incredible character. He's an incredible. I think, and James Gunn mentioned he's my favorite Robin, which I think is what. But he also mentioned this is going to be a Bat family movie.
Yes.
So I think we're going to have Nightwing and potentially Batgirl and maybe Tim Drake as Robin and other things. We might see the larger Bat family part of this project. So The Brave and the Bold. That's going to be the first Batman.
That I'm excited about. The only thing, my question is that how old is this Batman? If he has a 10-year-old son, I thought he was going for this younger crowd, this younger casting, and now we have a Batman in this universe that's a little bit older.
Great question.
Yeah, so that's my only concern with that. That's when I said that I'm a little concerned about this because of that. The rest of it, I mean,
I
love the Robin as a psychopath killer.
But I'm okay with going with the Robert Pattinson version of Batman
in the Elseworld.
In the Elseworld as the younger version of Batman, and then have maybe a guy who's in his mid-30s in our DC universe who has a son who's 10 years old. What's wrong with that? He has a little affair with Talia al Ghul, and he's in his 20s, and something happens, right?
All right, we'll see.
I'm excited. I'm really excited for that. I think it'll be great. We're going to get a movie, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So that's based on a comic book run. There was a comic book called Superman, Man of Tomorrow. They did a Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and she is a bit of a, I'll say, jaded character in that comic book run. She's not so. Superman was sent to Earth as an infant, raised by loving parents,
right?
The Kents in Kansas, and was raised as an Earthling and has American values. This Supergirl was on Krypton up until the moments that it was destroyed and had been corrupted by all kinds of other stuff going on in the government. Yeah. Was sent to Earth much later in life when she was
she survived. Teen. She survived on a giant piece of Krypton that was blown up and still existing, this giant piece where it was harsh and deadly and watched a lot of people die, and she is very different than the loving, caring Clark Kent that we know and love. And then for 14 years on this, and then somehow gets sent to Earth, and that's going to be very interesting because she is a super hero that we have never seen before in the big market, right?
I think it'll be a kind of different take on what we believe is Supergirl, which I think is great. And then we're going to get a Swamp Thing movie, and the way that James Gunn described it is it's a character horror origin story. Horror. It is the horrible origin of the Swamp Thing character, really kind of delving into that Justice League dark kind of like, getting into the supernatural and the horror side of the Justice League.
And now, is this an
movie?
Elseworld
No, this is connected. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I thought you said it was Elseworld before, but no, this is going to be connected.
No, the Swamp Thing is going to be connected. So, but he said it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
It goes into the dark origins.
Well, we know James Gunn does horror well.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. The other television series we're going to be getting, Booster Gold. So Booster Gold in the comic books is a character.
Not Buster, but Booster.
Booster Gold. Very popular comic book character, as a matter of fact.
Way more popular than I thought.
Yeah,
People fucking love this guy.
He's from the future. He's kind of a douchebag.
No question. He wants people to like him so bad that he travels back into the future and uses
back into
time, and he uses future technology to make himself popular and make himself a superhero so people will like him.
He uses basically technology you have 200 years from now to come back to our time and uses that technology so people will actually think he's a hero just so he get people to like him.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but he's a very popular character.
Very comedy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a comedy.
Yeah, it's going to be very Peacemaker-esque, I would say.
Chris Pratt's going to do great in that.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, come on. Really? I don't know. I'm just speculating, but James Gunn seems
will there be a dance-off to save the universe?
I hope so. But you need somebody with some tremendous comic chops to play that. So the casting there is going to be everything.
Yeah. And then we're going to get a Lanterns series. It's called Lanterns. Thank God, finally, they're bringing Green Lantern and the Green Lantern Corps into the DC universe. Yeah. Thankfully, they're going to do it through a series on HBO Max. And this, I love the way they describe this.
Oh.
Hal Jordan and John Stewart are basically Green Lanterns that have Earth as part of their jurisdiction, right? So they're kind of
joint
intergalactic cops.
Yes.
And Earth is part of the jurisdiction, and they call it the True Detective of the DC universe.
Oh, they had me there. That's when I was like, okay, this is. Now I'm telling you right now, this is probably one of the most exciting.
And again, theoretically, whoever they cast as Hal Jordan and John Stewart are going to be those characters in anything they do in any other project.
Animation, all of it. So I can't wait. Yeah. He said they're going to sprinkle in some other lanterns in there as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you're going to have Kilowog and some other, others in there, like, Sinestro and potentially some other things going on.
Like, kind of a whodunit, and apparently they're, like, trying to discover this very deep, horrible evil that's been on Earth, and it's a detective to figure out what it is. And this is going to be a constant theme in all their movies.
Great.
I can't wait for this. This is the one that I'm really looking
I'm excited for that as well. Yeah. And then finally, the last one is a series called Paradise Lost, which is going to follow kind of the origins of Themyscira, the island that Wonder Woman is from, island of the Amazons.
But Wonder Woman's not in it.
But she's not even born yet.
Yeah.
So this is way before Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, is even born. We're going to get into the history of Themyscira and the Amazons and how they came about and their society and the infighting. And they described it as kind of like the very Game of Thrones. They're
going to do politics, power shuffles, like families against family, how the island came about, who the queen is.
And I'm sure the gods are involved here, right?
Obviously. It's going to be, I think, in order to make this...
Right.
Now, for me, this is a little bit of a snoozer. I mean, I'm not kidding. The fact that they said it's Game of Thrones-ish got me excited for it a little bit, but I need more information on this.
It's an island of women, Tony. And they said Game of Thrones.
Okay. Who's the smoke show? Are they casting? They better cast some smoke shows, and they also better have a really good story for this, because you're eliminating one of the big three here, and that is Wonder Woman.
Well, but what they could be doing is setting up the origin of one of the big three, right?
From the very, very beginning, before any of it was...
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a snoozer for me, to be honest with you. I'm not excited about this. I need more information.
James, I'm sorry. You're disappointed, Titanium. But yeah, I mean, look... Again, we've now got 10 projects, 5 movies, 5 television series in phase 1. So, again, they said 2 movies, 2 television series per year. Okay? So we know 10 projects, right? So that's 2.5 years, right? That we're going to use. This is the next 2.5 years of the DC universe.
We were promised surprises, too, in the Chapter 1. So within that, he might throw in here or there some other announcements. I think we're going to get more announcements in January after Aquaman does a run.
Next January.
I think we're going to get more announcements. And I don't see how you keep Ezra Miller. I don't. And Jason Momoa, I think he was so excited, not to play Aquaman again, but for a new role somewhere in the DCU. That's my theory.
A couple of things I want to make sure we touch on before we exit today. First, the last movie on the current slate of DC EU films is Aquaman Lost Kingdom, coming out end of this year. End of this year.
Uh-huh.
So there's nothing on the calendar for DC until July 2025.
Yeah.
So after Aquaman comes out in December 2023, nothing on the calendar until July 2025. Now, we've been told that Waller... right, and Creature Commandos will come out before this.
Right.
So we're going to fill an entire year and a half.
Creature Commandos is already done.
All right, but we're going to fill an entire year and a half
with 2 series.
2 series.
It's tough.
It's a long time. Long time.
But I think we'll get those in 2024.
You're going to fill an entire year with 2 series on HBO Max. No movies until July 2025. We've talked about the big delay on Marvel. Right, the Marvel's coming out this summer, and no movie for a year, basically, effectively 11 months. We're going to go without a movie. We're talking about over a year and a half without a major motion picture being released by Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
DC.
It's going to be tough.
I want to make sure that hits home here.
Yeah,
I'm excited about the announcements. I'm excited about the future direction. I'm excited about the way it's connected. The fact that they're all connected. The same actors are always going to be part of the same story. It's story driven. The directors and the producers are making music and movies without interference from the studio, and all of a sudden, fantastic. But you're going a year and a half after releasing your final project, which may or may not be connected to any of the stuff you're doing in the future. You're going to wait a year and a half.
Not much else they can do.
They could start filming now.
That would be nice. But I don't think they're ready.
But I just want that to sink into everybody. And again, there was so much excitement and so much discussion about what's going on with DC, and this is fantastic. And I completely agree. Get it right. I think the intentions are great and everything else. But I just want everybody to realize everything they're doing this year was already on the schedule. Highly likely none of it connects to anything they're doing in the future. Highly likely, and they're just using smoke and mirrors and telling us that it does or might, and so that we don't discount it. Other than Blue Beetle, which I think might connect. But everything else is kind of like, might not connect. And then you're going to wait a year and a half before the next project comes out from them.
Dude, I heard they stripped out even Gal Gadot's cameo in The Flash, Jason Momoa's cameo.
But Gal Gadot had a cameo in Shazam as well.
They stripped all that out. They also stripped out Michael Keaton.
They did?
They stripped out Michael Keaton from The Flash.
How did they strip him out? He was a big part of the movie.
I'm telling you right now, this is what I'm hearing. And also, Sasha, the chick that plays Wonder Girl or Supergirl in this, they stripped out another cameo with her in it.
She's in the movie, though.
I'm telling you what I'm just telling you what rumors that I heard. So they made some major changes to The Flash. I think you're going to be surprised at how changed it is. But it is going to reset the DCU. But again, it'll be interesting. But that's right. Yeah, a whole year.
What if the entire movie is Ezra Miller in the Flash costume, runs into an Office Depot, and hits like the easy button, and then that's the entire movie. Boom!
How do you keep him? I know. I understand.
I don't understand it.
But you can't say that you're getting rid of them. You can't.
And look, in their defense, you mentioned this, Titanium. How can you have 4 movies that are basically, almost all of them have been completely filmed? I know Aquaman has gone through massive reshoots.
Yeah.
Basically had to remake the entire movie for the most part.
Yeah.
But that's coming out. Shazam's in the can. Flash is in the can. Blue Beetle's close to being in the can. And Aquaman's been doing reshoots for months. How are you going to come out and openly say, these are great projects made by great people. They're not going to connect to anything we're doing in the future, but you should go see them anyway.
Yeah. Tough.
Right.
You can't do that.
You can't do it.
You can't kill the movie. Warner Brothers would have a fit. You come out and say, well, they're not really connected. We don't see...
I think this is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to be discussed by insiders like you, because we're big-time insiders. Insiders like you and me over the next 12 months.
Absolutely.
Is every time one of these projects comes up, well, what's the future? How do they fit into the universe?
Especially after we see it.
Right.
Is that going to be the future?
Right,
this has nothing to do with the future. Right. This is not going to tie into anything.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this, Professor, before we head out. Out of the 5 movies that are coming up, rank them as I'd say, of your excitement level.
Excitement level. Okay.
Superman Legacy.
Depends on who they cast. It could be 2 or 1.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's the most important movie to the future of the DC universe.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree with you there. Absolutely. The Authority.
I'd say that's like 3. Yeah. I mean, that could be the new Guardians of the DC universe. I think it'd be exciting. Yeah.
The Brave and the Bold.
Number 1. I think they got to get Batman right in the DC universe. And I think Damian Wayne should and could be the right Robin for what the tone of the DC universe is going to be for
based
James
on who
Gunn.
they cast. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Supergirl.
5.
Yeah.
I could care.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're going backwards then, right? 10 isn't the most popular.
You said rank them 5 movies.
Yes.
So I'm going 5 is like the least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing.
4.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm excited for it. More excited than what they're doing with Supergirl. But and again, a lot of this is casting, right? And I think that they know this. So I love the way James Gunn has come out and said this. We are not going to cast actors in these roles until the script is done.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to bring them in, have them read, and we got to make sure they're the right people for the role. I love that about it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get any cast, but who they cast in these roles will have an impact on the excitement level behind them.
Now, Ben Affleck has been working with James Gunn and the people over there, Peter Safran and James Gunn,
to direct something. Not as Batman, but to direct something. He's highly motivated to direct one of these projects. Which one of these would you see him directing? I mean, I think the logical one is The Brave and the Bold, but I don't think so. I honestly think he would probably do The Authority.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be where he would... Well, I'm a little trepidatious behind that because I know The Authority is a big pet project for James Gunn, and if he gives it to somebody else besides himself, I would be concerned for it. But
what about Superman Legacy?
No. I think it's too big for him.
Too big.
I think you need a big name, like established, proven director to do that one. Yeah. I think James Gunn will probably do that one just because it's the first one.
Really?
He's writing the movie.
He is writing it. No one knows it better than him.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I like it. Overall, give me your really quick overall impressions of the announcement. Grade it from A to F.
I'll say the message is a B+. The content behind the message is kind of like a C+. I'm like, I needed more. I needed a little bit more. And again, I know they can't share everything, and there's certain things they can't get into. Yeah. I get it. But I think, again...
At least they gave us something.
The intent behind it, here's the things that I loved when he said them. Everything will be connected. The same actors will be playing these characters across multiple different projects and multiple different formats. I love it. We're going to be story-driven. We're not going to have the
most
studio.
Thing,
we're not going to have the studio interfere with content, right? That's everything about the message is and he's like, we're building a world here. This is what we're doing.
World building is James Gunn's forte. That's his wheelhouse.
Well, again, historically he took one of the least popular, least known groups of superheroes in the Marvel universe and made them one of the most popular.
No question. And he's very good at it. There's no question about that.
And it was all character-driven storytelling, and put the right actors in the roles and write great scripts, and it was awesome. So that's my excitement. I think you had some bit of a fear around him continuing to use the same actors and actresses. Like we know Peacemaker is safe and Amanda Waller is safe. We knew that was going to happen, but you're like, well, Batista's coming over to do something, and so are you fearful that some of the same people he continues to work with will be the main actors and actresses he's leaning on going forward?
I'm still a little weary of that. It wasn't a full, complete reboot like I thought it was going to be. I don't think this year's actors will continue, which is great. They're just not saying it. Overall, I'm pretty excited about it. It's something. It's something more. Remember, they have to do this after this world and already the big three, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, have already been filmed in live-action movies. And they already have this huge Snyderverse fan base. And they're battling against that and this and that. For him to bring these obscure characters in, although popular... but obscure characters, and not focus just on the big three or even the Lantern or Hawkman or Martian Man-Thing, which hasn't even been said. Manhunter. Nothing even been said about Flash. Nothing being said about Flash either. I mean, we have no idea after this.
Could be Ezra Miller.
Oh, don't say that. But anyway, to do that and took a lot of guts, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it was good, but I agree with you. The overall announcement for me is a B. It's not an A+, and it's not an A. It's not even a B+. It's a B. And the reason why it's a B is because he said the magic word to me. The stories are the most important things to us, and that they're connected. And I think that's a great start.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show, people. School is over. Ring the bell, Professor.
All right, well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com or @supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
And we're out.
Thanks, YouTube.